I have no doubt that anyone who has had an interest in the rap scene for any amount of time hasn't heard of Tupac, and for good reason. The man's talent has been recognized by many of the greatest rappers of this era, to the point where in 2017, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. However, Tupac was not always known as Tupac. Tupac was born in 1971, and was originally named Lassane Parish Crooks, but in due time his mother would take to the name Tupac. Speaking of his mother, she played a rather large part in Tupac's views and influences while raising him. Afena Shakur was a Black Panther activist. However, his mother, while caring, wasn't the greatest role model for Tupac as he was growing. Due to some circumstances, Afena had become addicted to meth. Because of this, in much of Tupac's younger life, he found himself moving from place to place very often. However, while listening to many of Tupac's songs, you can definitely see his mother's influence, many of his lyrics being centered around a social responsibility, with even one of his songs being named Panther Power.
As real as it seems, the American dream ain't nothing but another calculated scheme to get us locked up, shut up and back and chained, to deny us of the future, rob our name.
Moving on. When he was 12 and was constantly moving house, he had had a deep interest in poetry and acting. So in Harlem, Tupac joined the 127th Street Ensemble, and a year later, he was a star of a play called Raisin in the Sun. This would ultimately spark his deep interest in acting and theatre. And from this, Tupac's fascination would only grow as he relocated to Maryland in 1986. It was here that he enrolled at the Baltimore School of Arts, where he would take dance classes, acting classes, and very uncharacteristically did exceedingly well at ballet. However, this is when his interest in rap began to flourish, and he would start making his very first raps under the alias of MC New York. However, Tupac's moving habits didn't end yet, because in 1988 he moved to California and enrolled in high school, in which he promptly dropped out of. In this time, Tupac had invested more of his life in studying poetry and formed his first rap group under the name Strictly Dope, and only later would his talent be recognized by a Digital Underground's manager at a Strictly Dope concert. This discovery would be paramount to Tupac's career, as he experienced his breakout moment in 1991, with his guest verse in Digital Underground's hot single, Same Song. In this same year, Tupac would release his first single, Tupacalypse Now, and if his year wasn't busy enough, Tupac was even acting in a crime drama called Juice. 2 years after this busy year, Tupac released an album called Strictly for My Niggaz, which was certified platinum in 1995. However, in this same year, Tupac was accused of sexual assault, which he denied the charges for. However, this would come back to haunt him later on. The following year, he took up his passion for acting again and played a love interest for Jeanette Jackson in the movie Poetic Justice. And another year after that, Tupac and his gang had popularized the term thug in hip-hop with their album Thug Life, which is an acronym for The Hate You Give Little Infants Fucks Everybody. Later on in 1995, Tupac's life would go through some great hardships. This all stemmed from the fact that Tupac wanted to record an album with Puff Daddy and the Notorious B.I.G. in Manhattan. As he was being ushered into the recording studio, Tupac was shot 5 times by some unknown men. Sustaining some major injuries, Tupac was instantly taken to a hospital. However, the next day, he had to attend his court trial for the sexual assault charges the previous years. He was found guilty. So in February of the same year, Tupac finished recording his album Me Against the World before going to serve his prison sentence. It was here that his album Me Against the World had blown up in popularity and had topped Billboard charts and sold over 2.4 million copies. During this time period, Tupac may have inadvertently started the East vs. West rap feud. This was done by stating that Puff Daddy and the Notorious B.I.G. planned for the shooting to occur to him on that day. After a long 8 months in prison, Tupac is bailed out by Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight. It was here that Tupac had begun a flurry of creativity and pumped out album after album, and probably one of his most significant albums by the name All Eyes on Me, which would chart as number 1. And after being bailed out, Tupac had regathered his Thug Life crew under a new name, Outlaws. However, in this very year, Tupac went to go watch Mike Tyson fight with Suge Knight, to which, after the fight, Tupac and Suge Knight were involved in a drive-by shooting, where Tupac was shot in the chest, the pelvis, his right hand, and thigh. One of the rounds went right into Tupac's right lung, which led to Tupac ultimately being killed.